Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl. This is going to be episode 37 of my poker vlog, and today I'm going to talk about a session that occurred. It was January 24th, Friday. I went down to some of the Hard Rock in Tampa, and I played kind of an interesting session. And this video is going to be a bit more strategy based. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to have a profitable strategy against a extremely tight table where the action's very, very limited. A lot of people would call that a bad table and they look for a change. Me, I think of it as an opportunity to just make money a different way, and I'm going to explain on how I did that. So let's talk about some hands. First interesting hand. So I button straddle. It folds all the way to the cutoff, who makes it 50. Now in this particular hand, the cutoff has raised every single button straddle I've done, like 4 in a row. Usually I just folded, didn't have anything, but with 6-7 of spades, I think it's good enough to defend at least once and see what happens. I call. The flop is 9-8-7 with 1 spade, so it's actually a pretty good flop for my hand. He bets 75, and I'm not really gonna fold with a pair, straight draw, backdoor flush draw. I choose to call. The turn is another 8, and he checks to me this time. When he checks, I think he realizes that any suited connectors from 10 to 5 are either a straight, 2 pair, or pair plus straight draw. It's so heavily weighted to a calling range that anything he has is likely not good against this exact board texture. So I think I can rep 8-9, 8-7, maybe 9-10. There's all kinds of stuff that I could rep and get any ace high to fold. So I bet 150, looking for a fold here, but he calls. There's a 5, so we hit our gin card, and when he checks to me, I think he almost always has aces or kings here. So based on pre-flop action in the pot, I think that he'll call a bet of about $250 with aces. I think it's pretty much right on the brim of what aces would be happy to call with. So that's why I bet 250. He thinks for about 2 minutes before finally throwing in 1 chip. And I just turn on my hand, feel like the king, feel excellent, and he does show pocket aces. So I was feeling pretty good until the dealer grabs my hand and starts to turn it over, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, he has got aces. And I point to my 6. I guess I was wrong. The board was actually 10-8-8-7-5. Turns out I am not the king.
The only thing you're ever gonna be king of is king of the stupids.
Turns out I cannot count to 9. And we start out the session quite deep in the hole. Over $500 down. Maybe it was the nerves. I had expectations of a big session since I hyped up this trip to Tampa for 2 weeks now. Maybe it was expectations, just blatant horrible eyesight. I don't know, but that's a mistake that I've really never done before, ever. Kind of humbling, pretty embarrassing. I wish I could just tell this story as if I was using my 6 as a blocker bet, trying to get aces to fold, but it wouldn't be true. I misread the board somehow and hope it doesn't happen again. So about an hour goes by and I really haven't played a hand. And I realize that at this table, it's pretty much always a chopped pot or a bet and take it. There's not a whole lot of flops that were seen across an entire hour. After I've witnessed this, I've decided that I'm gonna completely change my strategy from tight aggressive to loose aggressive and just take advantage of the just lack of interest anyone has in any hand. And that's how I was able to grind back. I started with, on the cutoff, had 8-9 offsuit, raised to 20, win $7. Another hand with 1 limper to me, I have Jack-10 offsuit, I raised to $20. One of the blinds call. Flop is Queen-9-4. I bet $25, get a fold, win that one. Literally 10 to 15 hands like this of just winning pre-flop or getting 1 caller pre-flop, betting any draw, any pair on the flop, and taking it down was getting me a good chunk of the change back, 10 to 20 bucks at a time. It's working fantastic. So if you're at a table where there's just very, very little action, this is the time where you have to be the one to loosen up your range. If everyone else is just waiting for premiums, you have to be the one that's stealing the blinds, stealing the limps, stealing every chance you get. If they're only going to call you at premiums, play more hands. Bet that they're not going to have the hand to call you with, and that's how you're going to make your money. So an example of how to know when this is a time to slow down. With one limper to me, I'm on the button with king jack of spades. I make it $20 and only the limper calls. Heads up to a flop, which is ace 10-8, two spades. Pretty fantastic board for me. When he checks to me, I bet $25, planning on winning it right there and the hand just being over. But this, OMC, he chooses to call, and at that point, I don't think he ever has less than an ace here. So plan is just shut down and see if I can improve. The turn is a 9, which helps my hand a little bit because a 7 would now give me a straight. But when he checks to me, I think that I'm never getting a fold out of someone who called on an ace high board. Because it's ace high and he called once, I don't think he's ever folding, and I choose to just check it back and see if I can just realize my equity that I have. There's an offsuit 5, so I brick everything. He checks to me. When he checks to me, now there actually is a decision. Is bluffing appropriate? Based on my exact hand, I think the answer is no. The hands that might call the flop that I could get to fold are missed flush draws and missed straight draws. So any spades and king, queen, king, jack, something like that are the hands that I hope he has that I could get to fold. But I block all of that. I have the spades and I have the face cards. So blocking every hand that I think is a candidate he could have that he would call then fold the river, I check it back again and he shows ace 10. So he limp called that, called the flop, and checked it down. Maybe you can get a fold when there's a 3-liner on the board, but I don't really think so that much. I think 2 pairs too strong even for this table. And that's kind of why a very tight, passive, non-action table can actually be good for you, because I was able to make my own price for a massive draw, and then when it missed, not get myself in a bad situation. Whereas if I bet the flop, turn is a queen, he's going to call with 2 pair, or a spade, he's probably going to call at least once. And if I miss the turn, I can just check it, see the next card for free, and then get away from it when I miss. So having a table with no action is not actually a bad thing, as you can realize your equity pretty easily and not get punished for drawing. So that's why I kind of liked this table. So for the next hand, I'm going to preface it by saying my opponent, I didn't witness the full hand or the action that ensued, but I do know that he was under the gun and raised to 20 pre-flop, and at the end of the hand was the winner with 6 deuce of spades.
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
So yeah, I pay attention to things like that, and he's clearly the only one willing to throw money around. For this hand, I'm on the button. He's under the gun. He limps this time. There's one other limper. It comes to me. I have king jack offsuit. I make it 25, sizing up, expecting to just win $22 here, but this time only the aforementioned player calls, which is fine. He plays any 2 cards, so we're well ahead of whatever he has. Flop is jack 8-6, so pretty good flop for me. When he checks to me, I bet 40 for straightforward value, as he could have any 2 cards and he would call with a worse jack or an 8 probably. He calls. Turn is a 9. Not fantastic because the board gets a little more connected, but he checks to me, and I think this is a perfect card to check back. Just evaluate on the river. I'm checking here with the idea that I'm going to call anything he leads out with, because I've seen him play any 2 cards that are pretty bad and overvalue them a few times. This is a pot control check to just call down whatever hits the river. The river's a 3, so it doesn't matter at all. He checks to me, and I'm going to size to $75. Kind of small, but I think he's going to be priced in with any jack, any 8, maybe a 9. He could have like 9-10 possibly. Regardless, he thinks for quite a bit of time before finally assembling the bet and putting it in. And when I show my cards, he gives kind of the solemn nod and throws his hand in. I think that the check back on the turn gives me a little bit of deception and lets me size up a bit for the river bet. Lets me get some money. On the other hand, as I'm raising so off, just taking advantage of the table, there was one other player that was kind of doing that as well. He is in middle position. He makes it 20. I'm on the button with king queen offsuit. I raise to 60, folds back to him, and he just folds. So that's a good $27. Few orbits later, same dynamic. Same player makes it 20. I make it 60 with ace 10 of spades, and this time he calls. So that's fine because he's been the only one who's been kind of active at the table in terms of pre-flop aggression. So he doesn't have to have a premium hand at all either. The flop is king, king, deuce, one spade. When he checks to me, this is an obvious slam dunk c-bet spot, as ace high is often good here. He should never have a king. Anything he's willing to raise, just call a 3-bet with, is unlikely better than ace 10. Very rarely ace queen or ace jack. Maybe an ace, but if it's a worse ace, I have the best hand. He should never have a king here. In all normal situations, I think that for this board, this should be a down bet scenario. As if I had ace, king, king, queen, pocket aces, or maybe pocket queens, king's unlikely because it's quads, I would down bet with my entire range of 3-betting hands, with all the value and the bluffs that are mixed in there. I think this particular player, being somewhat competent, I think this particular player would just interpret the down bet as weakness instead of what it really is in my range and strategy, which is basically a premium to air. So I choose a consistent bet sizing. I make it 60, and he pretty much snap folds. So that's an easy 60 bucks that I made, just betting pre-flop and, 1 c-bet. The next 3 hands all occurred on the button. It's folded to me on the button, and I have 2 black queens. Okay, so like I've said, I've pretty much stolen the button every single time. If it was folded to me, I won, raising to 15 with king 3 suited, with queen 8 offsuit, and with a variety of holdings, just taking 7 bucks every lap. Well, on this button, I have pocket queens, 2 black queens. This is the moment where you don't like a table that's not giving action, because it's a premium you can get some money with. When it folds me on the button, I just do my standard 15, thinking it's just gonna fold through and I'm gonna make $7. But this time, both blinds call. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace, ace, 8, 2 hearts. So they both check, and I think that the blinds who'd call the raise, who've been folding all night, would likely have an ace in their hand. I think ace anything is suited, unsuited. I think that's well within their range. So I'm not going to c-bet this board either, as even though I could have an ace, I think if they had one, they're never folding 3 aces. So I check it back. Turn is a jack of hearts, so 3 hearts on board. When both blinds check to me a second time, I now don't think that a blind would check 3 aces twice. Maybe if it was an unconnected board, but with 3 hearts out there, I think if either blind had an ace, they would have to throw out a bet, at least on this turn, to protect their trips. So me thinking that no one could ever have an ace here, I bet $20, honestly thinking that just the king or the queen of hearts, 1 heart hands, would call this bet. So I can get value from all of that and likely have them drawing pretty slim either way. Well, both blinds call, and the turn is a 5 of hearts. When they check to me, it's not really a hand I can ever bluff on. I think that, like I said, I put them both on a heart, so it is what it is. Not the best run out. I check. One player has king jack, no heart. The other player has jack 9, no heart. So queens wins that hand shockingly. So next hand, I am on the button with 9-7 offsuit. I make it $15. Only the big blind calls. We are heads up to a flop, which comes king 9-6. Now in this hand, the big blind leads out for $10. Kind of odd. I think it's usually a king, but I'm never going to fold middle pair here, considering how passive they are. If they checked me on a later street, I can just take it down then. And I got some backdoor straight possibilities. So I choose to peel one. Well, turn is a 7, so that's fantastic. And this time, the opponent bets $20. Pretty much a slam dunk raise here. I hope you have a king of some sort. I bet $50. The opponent calls very, very quickly, and the river is a 10. They check to me, as I doubt my opponent would ever lead out with, queen jack, and I doubt they would just check king 10 at the end anyway. I think this 2 pair should be good here most of the time. Beat king, queen, king, jack, ace, king. Bunch of kings that they could have that would lead twice and be inclined to call a $75 river bet, which takes very little time at all to get called, and 2 pair is good there. Again, just a lot of small hands, but they add up pretty quickly. The very next lap, I have 9-7, and I kind of chuckle thinking, yeah, it worked good last time. So I make a $15 on the button, only the blind calls again. And for this flop, we have jack 8-5. the opponent checks to me. Now, I like my hand a lot here because I think when I make a straight with a 10 or a 6, it'll be so disguised that I could actually get it paid off. And again, like I said, I've just been c-betting every flop anyway. I bet $10, smaller than my normal c-bets, because I actually want a call because I want to build a pot because I just think it's going to hit this time. Turn as a king of spades brings the second spade on board, and my opponent checks to me. Now I bet 25 as I no longer want her to call. I want to fold now because feeling less happy about it now. But they call a second time. Not very good. The river is the ace of spades. When it's checked to me, this is a card that I think should be river bluffed at. It brought 3 spades. It brought the second overcard to a jack. If you had just a jack and that's the run out that you get, that's a pretty horrible run out. So I bet $45 with obviously nothing, hoping to get a fold. And it works out this time. We get the fold. So we're doing pretty good playing a little bit of small ball, pretty loose aggressive strategy on this table. So at this point, started the session from the first hand down $500, and at this point I believe I'm down about 60, so about 1440 in front of me when I'm on the small blind with pocket kings. As I've said in this video, I've 3-bet a decent amount of time. When the button makes it 20, I can't just call with this, even though I would love action, and I think it's going to get a fold most of the time. I make it 60, expecting a fold and only making $20. This time the button chooses to call. The flop is king 6 deuce rainbow. With the entire board locked up, normally I would just check this. At this point, I think a down bet would actually get called a lot of the time. This player in particular had a huge stack, at least 2K, and I think that he'll just have the stack and the pot odds to call at least one down bet. So I bet 40, and he calls pretty quickly, which gives me some confidence. Deuce, and I'm just hoping he has some kind of 6, some kind of 2, some kind of ace, king, or king, queen, even though I heavily block that. So I purposely take about a minute trying to look as weak as possible. I don't know if that actually worked or not, but I spent a minute before I bet just $75, again, well under half pot, and the opponent snap folded, so couldn't get anything else out of him there. And I show because it's definitely time for me to leave. I think I grinded back a profit. When I go to the cage, I have exactly $1,500 to the exact dollar. So, into the game for $1,500, out of the game for $1,500. Like I said, it was a quite low action table. People just waited for premiums way too much, in my opinion. If you take out that first hand where I misread it, I was only there 4 hours. So to grind it back $20 at a time, it was well over $100 an hour, well over 20 big blinds an hour if I just don't misread my hand in the beginning. But we cannot change that. So hopefully we'll learn for next time. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, please subscribe. Thank you.